I can't sleep. My mind was racing with ideas of what it could be. Tomorrow was the most important day of the year. On everyone's 14th birthday, each person has to complete one quest in the period of a week. If you don't, you are forced to go and stay in Neverdale. Neverdale is where the failures go to live. In this place, you are given a curse that you are stuck with for your entire life. I had heard stories of many people, some of which are people who have been cursed with 2 left feet, a cloud that follows and rains on them wherever they go, and some who have been forced to have slightly more unfortunate things happen to them, which no one talks about. You find out your quest by standing on a stage, and the judges hand you an envelope and a pearl. The judges give a pearl, so when you throw the pearl down at the end of your quest, or if you quit, it brings you to the judge's office, and they then decide if you passed or failed. If you pass, normally you have a party and live a great life. If you fail, you know what happens. The envelope reveals your quest. Besides Neverdale, I couldn't stop thinking about the random storms that had been happening for millions of years. People talked about it on the news every day. Suddenly, my head hit my soft pillow, and a second later, when I opened my eyes, it was morning. "Happy birthday, Ashvi! Are you sure you're ready for today?" my mom asks as she steps into my room. As I flutter my eyes open, I see a few light pink and white balloons dancing around in the corner of my bedroom. I slowly push the blanket away from myself and instantly regret it as I put my feet into my slippers and a gust of cold air runs at me at lightning speed, almost pushing me down. My mom was holding a gift that said in capital letters, Ashvi. "Thanks, and yes, I'm ready. I always was," I replied groggily. "Great. Come down. 3 fluffy pancakes with maple syrup drizzled just the way you like it on top are calling your name," she said, smiling. I quickly did my morning routine and then ran downstairs, almost falling flat on my face. "Happy birthday," my dad said to me as I walked over to the table. "Thanks," I replied. "You should be very happy. I postponed all your birthday calls until next week, after you finish your quest," Mom adds. "Hopefully," I mutter quietly under my breath. 20 minutes pass, and my plate stares at me as my mom closes the dishwasher. "Gift time," my mom sings out. 5 gifts lay on the carpet waiting to be opened. I open it all excitedly, and after that, I thank my parents 100 times. Right after, I slip on my favorite shoes, and my family heads out to the car. I open the car door and sit down. The familiar sound of seatbelts buckling happens again, and the engine starts, and we leave the house. I think about what could happen, lightly wondering. Minutes later, I jump out of the car. "All parents and guardians, please be seated in the chairs behind me," a judge said. I read her name tag. Judge Mouse. After, it said. The kids took their place on the stage in a straight line, and the parents sat in their seats. The chatter quiets down as the judges stand up. They walk to the stage with envelopes in their hand. One at a time, they pass envelopes and pearls into the awaiting hands of the new questers. Questers is what they call us. I took my envelope and lifted the sticky flap and opened the card that was inside. Journey to Whispering Hollows. Find the man they call Rain Caller. Collect the tears that stream down to stop the storm. I closed the envelope. I think about the task I was given again and again as they called people off the stage. My name gets called, and I freeze in place. They say it again, I snap back into focus, and I run down. I find my parents and give them the envelope. You never know if a quest is easy or hard, but if they gave you an easy quest, then what's the point of this? My dad says, smiling. We get into the car and then drive home. When we reached, I grabbed a backpack and shoved things I thought I needed inside, and then I zipped it up. I ran downstairs where my parents stood waiting for me to get in the car. We went by car to the ocean. When we got out, I gave my parents a tight hug. "Good luck," they said together. We turned away, and I ran to the salty sea. A man stood still next to a boat. "How much for the boat and how much for a round trip to Whispering Hollows?" I ask. "$60 in all, includes food and water," he replies. I give him the money, and hop on the boat. I flip a switch, and before I know it, I'm gliding across the water, the ship driving itself to Neverdale. I wake up feeling a wave of salt water splash onto my blue jeans. I sit up and look around. Suddenly, a jolt of energy struck my brain, and I immediately remembered what had happened the day before. I looked the mist. There's a broken sign with lights flickering on and off, and block letters saying Neverdale, with whispering hollows written in smaller font below. The boat starts to slow down as it reaches the dock. I hesitantly step off the boat and look around. I see a grocer selling fruits at a stall. A woman reaches over the stall to take a couple of peaches and strawberries. She pulls $10 out of her pocket and then winces as if something bad was going to happen when she handed it over. I was right. An electric shot hits her hard and she shoots into the air. I could hear her sigh from above the stall as she then landed on the ground with 2 feet and a painful look on her face. I was shocked by what had just happened, but since I needed to fit in, I just looked away and walked leisurely up the road. As I walked, I saw many people with different curses, all looking sad and depressed. I walked up to a man who seemed nice enough. "Hi, may I ask you a question?" I quickly asked, trying to sound as polite as I could possibly be. "One," he says in a gruff voice. He had a plain blue shirt and a pair of green jeans on. "Do you know where a man who is called the Raincaller lives?" I ask. "Between the forest, beyond the maple trees, and into the place where he feels the breeze." He disappeared, and I tried to run after him. "He's not anywhere near here." "What now?" I said, anger bubbling inside me. As I ran up the road, I came to an abrupt stop. In a patch of dirt, the words Hollows Forest were written in cursive. Finally, I thought. I stepped inside, and my quest had begun. Suddenly, I heard a deep growl coming from behind me. I stopped and looked back anxiously. I heard another. I started to pick up my pace, which eventually turned into a run. The growl started to become louder, so I started to run faster. For a split second, I fell down as my legs decided to stop, so I fell onto the dirt and wood chips. Something large loomed over me. I closed my eyes and knew what was going to happen. I winced, but the only thing I heard was footsteps going away. I sat up against a tree and saw a figure moving back into the trees. I didn't want to take my chances, so I grabbed my backpack, which looked crushed and dirty, and then ran as far as I could. As I slowed into a walk, I heard a crash from the sky. Lightning ran down, and then heavy rain joined the party. "Of course," I said aloud, frustrated. I was too tired from running the whole time before, so I tried to look for somewhere to stay for the time being. I started to walk forward, pushing my legs. As I walked, I slowly noticed how the bushes started to disappear one by one. I looked at a certain one up ahead, but when I reached it, it disappeared. I had the vivid image in my mind of that bush. It had little roses on it and thorns that looked like if you touched it, you would never be the same. The image started to fade and into the man that I had met earlier in the day. I remembered the exact words he had said. Between the forest, beyond the maple trees, and into the place where he feels the breeze. I looked back at the bush picture that was seared in my brain. I looked a little farther and realized that there was something behind it, something that is known as a maple tree. As the rain hit my back harder than it ever had done, I picked up my pace and went as fast as I could. Suddenly, I saw something in the back behind an array of bushes. I started to creep closer to it. My wet hair flung in all directions as I made my way to the bushes. I found a clearing and went through that path instead of running through the bushes. I moved a tree branch away from my face and saw a little cottage. It was the color cream and had matcha-colored blinds that covered the windows. The door was ivory color, and the porch had small flower pots with intricate ruffles on them. I stepped to the doorway and knocked softly. "Hello? Is anyone here?" I asked softly. A shadow stepped up to the window, as if seeing if I was worthy to come in. A moment later, the door swung open, and a man stepped out. Rain streamed down his face, and a cloud hovered above him. "Come sit," he said gruffly. "Thank you." I stepped inside. I removed my shoes and sat down on an armchair. He went into what seemed to be a kitchen and then came out holding a steaming cup of hot chocolate and a towel. I took a proper look at him and realized that he looked quite familiar. I just couldn't put my finger on it. "Thank you," I said. "You never take the time to visit me, so why are you here?" he questioned. "I'm sorry about that. I'm here on a quest," I replied quickly. "You know what? It's okay, just that when you have no company, your attitude gets worse and worse. My name is Michael, by the way," he said. "I'm Ashvi. I'm sorry if I'm not supposed to say this, but do you mind telling me what your quest was?" I ask. He winces. "It was something." "I'm sorry, I should probably just change the topic," I say. "No," he says quickly. "You ask, so I should tell. After all, you